We all want to have sex with our mothers, at least according to the Oedipus complex. The story is a young guy wants to sleep with his mother. His father gets in the way, and so he kills the father to be with his mother. He thinks this is going to be wonderful, but it turns out to be a curse. So what does this story mean? Well, for Freud, the mother could be seen to represent a return to some sort of oceanic oneness. The return to the mother is an attempt to get back to some experience before alienation, some experience of pure bliss. And the father represents anything that gets in the way of that. So the moral of the story is be careful what you wish for. If you actually break through all the prohibitions of society and actually get what your heart desires, you'll find out that it's not a blessing, but actually a curse. Well, the Jewish tradition also starts with a type of Oedipus story. You have two people in a garden, walking around doing whatever they want. And then there is a prohibition. And behind the prohibition is a tree with fruit. Do not eat the fruit from the tree. Well, Adam and Eve think to themselves, what would it taste like? They break the prohibition. They think it's going to be wonderful, but it's an absolute disaster. Both of these stories give us an existential insight into what it means to be human. That all of us, to a greater or lesser extent, experience a gap between what we have and what we would like to have. And we try to close this gap in all manner of ways, trying to grasp at that sacred object that we think we need more than anything else. For Freud, there was a voice that would demand we achieve this, and it's called a superego. It's the voice that tells you that if only you're nicer to your parents, or have more sex, or go out with the right person, or have enough money, then everything will be great. And we tend to believe that if only we do what the superego demands, then we'd be happy. But in psychoanalysis, part of the challenge is actually to realize that the big other, this superego, doesn't exist. That actually the more we try to obey it, the more unhappy we become, the more depressed we become, and the more difficult life is. And the challenge is to, in a sense, get rid of this superego voice. Now, in the story of Adam and Eve, you also have a type of superego, and it's called the serpent. The serpent is this voice that says, if you eat this fruit, then you will be whole and complete. Then you will be like God. And of course, to be like God traditionally means to lack the lack. And people think that we need to obey this voice, that we need to do what the serpent says, to try to achieve those things in life that we think will bring back that oceanic experience. But any community that tries to do that is, technically speaking, a satanic community. Any church that tells you have to be something or get somewhere is technically in league with this devil. In theology, the challenge is to exorcise this voice, to get rid of it. And the technology of exorcism is grace. Grace is the idea that you are accepted. To experience grace is to experience the idea that you are accepted for who you are, to accept that acceptance. It isn't about saying, oh, I'll give you a second chance to get to your ideal. It's about saying there is no ideal you need to get to. You're fine the way you are, or rather you're not fine the way you are, and that's okay. But ironically, it's actually this experience of not having to strive for some ideal that helps transformation take place. It's like quicksand. The more we move and the more we strive, the deeper we sink. But when we're able to stop, then we stop sinking. Then real transformation can happen. Think about AA. In AA, there are 12 steps. But before the 12 steps, there's step 0. And what's that? It's being in a room of people who accept you just the way you are. In a room where you can say your truth, where you won't be judged, where you don't actually have to change. It might take you weeks or months or even years before you're able to accept the acceptance in that room. But once you're able to do that, once you're able to realize that you're accepted and you don't have to do anything, that's when change becomes possible, when the 12 steps actually become effective. The offense of grace is that you're accepted as you are. You don't need to strive for some ideal. And in that acceptance, you will find life, freedom, and transformation.